Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 3 of our Think ND World Religions, World Church course. This is the section of the course on the Church and Islam. We've looked initially for week 1 on the Quran and the Bible, for week 2 at the historical relationship between Christians and Muslims, and now in week 3 we're going to look at the theological relationship between the Church and Islam, and we'll start with a very big topic that's difficult to exhaust in just a short video, but the question of God. So, do Muslims and Christians worship the same God? I'm going to share a PowerPoint, briefly present some of the reasons why people have argued that the answer is no, and then offer some reasons why we might, in fact, in conversation with the Catholic Church, answer yes. So here we go with the screen share and my sophisticated PowerPoint, which is not very sophisticated. In fact, the Church and Islam theological relationship. I'm going to just cover those two topics as mentioned. First, arguments against, and then arguments for. So let's start with some arguments against. Many people might observe that our common belief in God with Jews is based on a shared scripture or shared divine revelation. So Christians agree that the Bible of Jews, the Hebrew Bible, is authentic divine revelation. Therefore, the God who speaks to Jews there is the same God who speaks to Christians in the New Testament. After all, the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament is found in the Christian canon of scripture. One might also say that when we evaluate the Quran, that God there seems different. The focus in the Quran about God is on divine majesty, but also sometimes divine right, meaning even God's ability to compel people to believe, not to believe, to guide, but also to lead astray. The Quran also seems to condemn certain Christian truths. I have a quotation there for Quran chapter 5, verse 72. In which, in a very provocative statement, the Quran has Jesus apparently condemning to hell those who associate things with God, and it could be a very sort of shocking condemnation of Christianity. Finally, although I'm not sure if Christians see this as a factor in their thinking about the question, but it's worth noting that some Muslims would argue that Christians and Muslims do not share the same God. We see a picture there from in front of a high court in Malaysia from 2014, where that court ruled that Christians cannot use the word Allah to refer to God because their notion of God is deviant from that of Islam. Having said all that, however, there are good reasons to argue that Christians and Muslims do worship the same God. Consider this. The only word for God in Arabic is Allah, which means that Christian Arabs and even Jewish Arabic speakers or Jewish Arabs speak of God as Allah. Consider that if Christians accept that we worship the same God as Jews, and Jews have the same sorts of critiques of Christian doctrine, especially on the Trinity and the divinity of Christ, the same sorts of critiques that Muslims advance, then isn't it really a similar case? Shouldn't we also accept that Muslims worship the same God? And finally, there are a number of church statements and declarations, for example, in the Vatican II document from 1965, Nostra Aetate, which encourages goodwill and respect, in fact, esteem towards Muslims. And then in another Vatican II document on the church, Lumen Gentium, there is an apparently explicit statement that Muslims, along with us, worship the one and merciful God. And we've seen this conviction of common faith in God articulated most recently in the meeting of Pope Francis and Ahmed Tayyip, who you see there in the image, who together proclaimed the document Human Fraternity from Abu Dhabi. And they together said, we, plural document, Muslim and Christian writing together, the Pope, not just any Christian, who believe in God in the final meeting with him in his judgment on the basis of our religious and moral responsibility, through this document, call upon ourselves, etc., etc. But the beginning of the statement is we who believe in God, implying a common faith in God. I thought I would end this very brief presentation just by noting that Pope Francis's convictions have inspired other figures, including a Protestant scholar known as Lyricea Hawkins, whom we see here, who wrote famously, I stand in religious solidarity with Muslims because they are, like me, a Christian, people of the book. And as Pope Francis stated last week, we worship the same God. Finally, in the most recent encyclical, Pope Francis says, listen, Saint Francis did not wage a war of words aimed at imposing doctrines. He simply spread the love of God. We might do that too in considering our relationship with Muslims and also considering our common belief in one God. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.